and welcome to our podcast. My name is Natasha.
And my name's Lauren.
Join us as we discuss all things Neighbours.
And it's unfinished business.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode.
Yes, welcome back. We have some fun for you this week. We've had some great news that Ian Smith will be returning to the show as a regular cast member as Harold Bishop.
Yeah, this is fantastic news that Hazza is back. Maybe he can keep Haz in check?
Yeah, so anyway, later on we'll be discussing Neighbours' best comedy duo in honour of Mr. Harold Bishop himself.
But first, let's get our teeth into the new episodes. Where should we start, Lauren?
I don't know. Where shall we start? Where shall we start? Well, I mean, let's start from the beginning, I suppose. Going back 2 weeks. Obviously, the big crash or accident has happened at the site, and yeah, Felix has been arrested for it after being found, and JJ has obviously had to go down to the police station and make a statement after realizing that Felix is his father. Yeah, Remy is obviously very like, you cannot ever see Felix again, and he obviously goes to see Felix and says, to him, no, we do not want you, seeing our son again. And JJ also gets charged and put on some sort of like rehabilitation program, I assume. But as long as he obviously attends and he goes to school, blah 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 blah. But he then sees a letter from Felix has been returned to him, and then doesn't attend the appointment with the education person. So yeah, it's all getting a bit a lot for him, I
Mhm.
guess. And but I suppose to be expected, really, isn't it? We said, didn't we? We were like, we're gonna either see JJ kind of have a full, like, blown meltdown, or which he has, I suppose, hasn't he? He's kicking off at Dex, being like, Dex, leave me alone kind of thing. He's, kicking off at Remy and Cara, just giving real attitude. And I suppose that's that side of Felix now coming out in JJ that we necessarily haven't sort of seen before. So yeah, what are you thinking on this whole JJ and Felix situation now? I think
Um,
that's the last we've seen of Felix.
no, no. I mean, it was an attempted robbery, right? So I don't know how long you would get for that.
But
Um,
not his first offence though.
hmm.
So you suppose do they take
I don't
that into
know. I just
consideration?
feel like somehow he's probably going to get off and he's still going to be, or it's going to be pretty short and he's still going to be sniffing around. The thing is, the thing is with Felix, he does try to keep away.
Mm,
It's JJ that keeps coming back. So as much as they can say, stay away from Felix or say to Felix, stay away from JJ, like, it's not going to happen because JJ won't let it happen.
I think though, we said it last week on our episode as well, or last week, 2 weeks ago, that he obviously has wanted to know who his dad is for a long time. So I suppose to have now found out, even though he's put you in that position, you're gonna still want to know, kind of like about him, you know, what your upbringing could have been had he been your father, any sort of kind of like family history. I mean, I suppose he kind of knows the family history because obviously he knows that Andrew was obviously adopted and was
Hmm.
raised. We could ask Andrew all of the details about like the family, I guess, and stuff. But I suppose there's probably a lot of just unanswered questions that he needs to know, and that's probably why he's going to keep trying to go back for more.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that's going to be interesting to see where that goes. Um, I really don't want to talk about him. I know you probably don't want to talk about him, but the next big storyline, I mean, we'll move on to We'll move on to Krista, Paul, and Chelsea, etc. in a minute. Let's get it out the way. Let's move on to the has storyline, because obviously this is a big one that's kind of dominated the last 2 weeks. Now, last episode, you were adamant that Has was some sort of serial
Serial
killer, and he's killed Trevor and used the dog meat as a
Still haven't
sandwich.
seen Trevor though, have we?
We haven't, which is a bit odd,
So
because it was made such a big deal that Trevor was, taken, and yeah, anyway. So obviously it turns out that actually Has is I suppose being blackmailed by this gang, or this group of IT techs that he used to be friends with. And they were paid by various different people to create these fake emails, videos, pictures, all this kind of stuff to, I suppose, get back at, you know, jilted lovers and all that kind of stuff, just to cause trouble, basically. And the um, Mac and Holly, obviously, very, very sus about, his attitude recently. And turns out that the blackmailer has been using the photo that was taken in Harold's to work his way through his like next targets, and his target this week being Holly, and the 20 grand that she has managed to save, which I was quite a bit like, how has she managed to save that anyway? But 20 grand that she has managed to save to buy herself a car has obviously then been stolen, and we see obviously has it in his account, and he breaks into the Kennedys because he feels bad and tries to leave the money for Holly, but gets caught in the act. And you can see that moment where Mac goes, hang on a
Mhm,
minute,
mhm.
20 grand, why are you putting that on the table? What's going on here? And you can see that she's twigged. And yeah, I knew then, I was like, Max twigged onto it. She started asking these questions. She's found the hard drive, found the evidence, challenged him on it. And he's obviously had to come out and explain the whole story about this gang or whatever. Um, and like, I don't know, I'm just a bit kind of like, why would you not just go straight to the police? Like, if that was me, I like, do
Well,
your
he's
look.
saying, "Oh, they're too slow. They won't be able to catch up with them. They're too slow." But nothing's ever going to get done. It's just going to be moving on to the next person, moving on to the next person. It's just, and I don't quite get this whole, well, I put malware, spy, whatever, on your devices because I wanted to protect you guys, and I wanted to, and I'm like, mm, still serial killer vibes.
Yeah, because that was odd. Because I was thinking, wasn't he? To me, him listening to their conversations was then him being able to access information and leverage to use against them. So then he was kind of just doing what the blackmailers wanted him to do. He wasn't trying to stop
It's
them.
all very hazy, all
And
very confusing.
yeah, and
I
it's
mean,
almost like,
I, the thing is also, the other question is, where the hell did he get this 20 grand from?
yeah.
So it's like,
Oh, he said something about the business or whatever, but then Mac called him up on it, and she was like, "Well, you said that that takes a really long time."
no, that's from somewhere. That's all. It's almost like that's money that
It
he's
wasn't.
used to blackmail other people.
But wasn't that the money that he took from Holly? He just went to his account and got it out. He hadn't sent it to the guy yet.
It's just
I
all
don't.
so
I think.
bad. I just feel
I
like,
think he transferred it into his account and then got it
but
out of his
but the
account.
thing is, how do we know that what he's saying is genuine?
Yeah, I suppose.
Like, I'm just thinking, he's saying, "Oh yeah, it's these other people,"
Mm,
but you were one of them. So
yeah.
who's to say? And people don't know you that well.
No.
People don't really know your past. This is what I was saying. Like, I can't wait for his sister to arrive
Mm,
because actually, we need to know more about you because we know nothing about you. And at the moment, you're dodgy as fuck.
And also, I'm just reading something on my notes. He goes and asks to sort the Varga Murphy's phones out.
Exactly. That's what I mean. So
I
whilst
was
this was
like,
all,
why would
whilst, yeah, exactly. Whilst this was all happening, he's then going to talk to Cara to say, "Oh, I'll help you out." Um, blah 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 blah, like being all nice. And I'm like, but surely that's just prey. You're just going to another family
yeah.
because you've exhausted your
Because
household or your friends.
Cara was the only one actually that helped out during the cleanup of Harold's. Remy and the boys weren't there, and yet he said he wanted to put that software on all of their phones. So it just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so obviously Mac has now traced this guy that Has had mentioned, a guy that they'd obviously done something to and upset, and this turns out to be this Wade guy, and obviously we've now seen at the end of these two weeks that actually he's the one that is has got the photo and is blackmailing Has, but obviously doesn't realize. But you now see that he's actually sucked Mac in, and he's actually using Mac for information, I suppose, on Has to try and get leverage, I suppose. So it's all a bit of a
It's very
big,
complex, and I'm just
yeah,
kind of like, is it is this storyline really worth it?
it's gonna end up just getting hurt in the long run, isn't she?
I mean, regardless of whether, you know, Haz is innocent in this situation, he's behaved too dodgy.
Mm.
Like, he's withheld stuff, he's lied, he's manipulated, he's listened into conversations, like that email with Harlow saying, "Oh, I didn't know whether it was real or not."
Well,
Like,
I think it's real.
I think it's real,
I
yeah.
think Mac lied to him.
I just Yeah, I just don't think Mac he's not worth it at all.
And it's so annoying because she's such a nice person, and it's
Mhm.
like she doesn't deserve another like shitty heartbreak like this,
Mhm.
especially after Hendrix dying,
Yeah.
So anyway, right, so yeah, let's move on from Has. Um well, I'm gonna leave Carl till last because he actually has just actually made me like in hysterics
No.
this week. Let's move on to the whole Krista, Paul, Chelsea debacle. So obviously, it was Hope's memorial this week. Um, and Leo apologize guys if you just heard my doorbell. I'm really sorry about that. Hope's memorial this week. And Leo's obviously been a massive support for her. And really gorgeous ceremony that Paul said he would do for offered for her. And the bit where he just started singing This Little Light of Mine, and then because he knew that that was the song that she wanted to play. And then yeah, they all joined in, which was a really, really lovely um moment. And then the cast of like her feet that he had made and gave to her, which I thought was really sweet. But I just knew there was a moment when they were lying on the grass after her and Leo, and she was saying about, how she was doing really well and stuff. And I was like, something's coming.
Mm.
There's just not gonna be,
Mhm.
well for much longer, I think. But obviously the person who has obviously made her obviously relapse in recent episodes is of course the woman we all hate to love to hate at the moment, Chelsea. um like she just keeps doing things, and it's like, when will this woman stop? Like, she's now sleeping with the uh, guy that has been asked to get the report and give to Paul, so that she can obviously blackmail him so that Paul and Krista don't find out that it was actually her. This tech guy is are now fallen for her, and it's all a bit honestly, it's like the weirdest fucking thing at the moment. I just don't, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to like this whole situation, because now Chris has obviously relapsed because Krista purposely put prescription pills in the drawer and was nasty to Krista after Cara told her not to be, so that she would,
Relapse.
relapse and start, yeah, saying horrible stuff. And I'm just like, how low will this woman stoop to? And then to be like, oh, it's okay. I won't tell anyone. I'll be the one that'll be there for you and get you through this.
Well, what frustrates me is that what like Chelsea, like her nephew is going through some shit at the moment.
Mm.
Like she doesn't even give a shit about her nephews at all.
No.
Um, it's literally just I'm gunning for Paul and his money. I'm not really sure what she's gaining by going this far, especially with Krista. I don't really
Mhm.
see her as that much of a threat. Um, it's just all very nasty, and obviously now with the sauna thing, um, yeah, I mean that was all a bit dodgy, wasn't it? How he was like, "No, I'll come back. No, I want to see Paul. No, I'll come back," and then she's just gone and seduced him.
It's because as he was leaving, he was like, "What's your name?" And she said Chelsea, and he obviously knew in the report that she was the one that remotely closed the
Mhm. Mhm.
door.
Mhm.
And then she obviously goes to the
Mhm.
hospital and's like, he's like, "Well, you buy me dinner and I'll give you some more information." So obviously she pays for all his food and stuff. And then he says, "The only reason you've paid for my dinner is because your name's in this report, basically." And
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
just too much, isn't it?
it's a
Like,
mess.
absolute mess. Um, and yeah.
I mean, Paul's gonna have to find out. I think, you know, she's been going for some months now. It's been escalating and escalating. There has to come, the worst thing was the fact that she is responsible for Krista's miscarriage.
Mhm.
So that's like really bad. So I don't think unless she actually kills a person, I don't see how it's going to get. Do you know what I mean? Like it can't get any worse, surely. And it's just it keeps escalating, and she has to be found out. Like you can't let someone like that get away with so much.
I
And
think
Paul is very much aware of Therese being around and wanting to be a friend to her. Um, you've also got Leo and Abigail moving back in. So it's kind of like, surely there's so many eyes now around the
Oh, I think
place.
that, and I think that's it. I think it's either going to be Leo's going to pick up on something, because already he said was like, you know, What's going on with you and Chelsea? Like, she's moved out and Therese is here." And straight away he could see that the relationship between Therese and Paul
Mm,
was like, so much stronger than it is with like Chelsea and stuff. He's like, "Are you sure are you sure you want Chelsea to be your girlfriend?" And Paul was like, "Well, I can't just dump her, can I?" kind of thing. You know, she can move out, give her some space, and then I suppose hopefully she'll eventually, just fade into the background. But yeah, I think Therese is going to come in there somewhere with it. And Paul's going to all these lengths to try and, help Therese. And I think has realized this week, oh, actually, when Abigail goes, um, "Oh, who would we invite to this tea party?" And she's like, "Therese." And then he's kind of like, "Oh, like, yeah." So there's obviously something there, which is then gonna put a spanner in the works between him and Chelsea. So maybe Chelsea tries to do something to Therese.
well, that's what I'm thinking.
And then,
Like,
Paul's like, that's the last straw for Paul, and then he finds out about all the other stuff that she's done.
yeah.
So yes. So I was gonna talk about um Jane, but like she was kind of a little snippet into a few things today. Obviously, she's still being targeted for bananas. Um, Jane was obviously a bit concerned over Paul's involvement with the Irene Rising, and not obviously happy about JJ coming back to school, etc. And she's kind of been here, there, and everywhere this week, Jane. She talks to Mel
Mhm.
about Therese. Yeah. So. there's been a bit of a
But I
develop.
think because Susan's not been around, like,
Yeah.
Susan would be that person. So I
Mm,
think, Jane's not only taken her old job, but is taking the
yeah.
role with the friends as well.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, fair play, we need someone like that.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think that's been, um, like, really good for her, especially with the, Mel and Teray situation. They've had to kind of clear the air a little bit this week because it's just making life hard for everybody. Everywhere Therese goes, Mel's there, kind of thing, and it's she just can't live like that. So let's go to Carl because Carl's topped this week off for us, and I think this leads nicely into our comedy section later.
Yeah.
So Therese has approached Carl and has been like, "You are my secret weapon," and straight away Carl's ears are up. He's like, "Secret
Mm.
weapon, tell me more." And this is the whole, I'm going to be a poster boy. Just another thing, obviously, to add to his big ego there, Carl Kennedy. And literally has had me in absolute stitches this week. I've loved having this side of Carl back.
Yeah.
So obviously he has now introduced some healthy eating to his diet. And he goes on a bike ride with Mel and has a bit of a Code Brown situation in British. Um, and prior to his photo shoot, he is obviously trying to prep his skin with his little eye masks on. And he also has been sporting some very nice shapewear to suck everything in for his photo shoot. It's Paul's face when he walks in and he's like, "Carl, you look a bit different," as in thinking you don't look as you know, the same shape as you used to. You seem to have lost some weight all of a sudden. Um, yeah, but we also see Carl go into a very kind of sad place because he hears that Susan isn't coming back, and everyone rallies round to try and cheer him up. And this massive billboard is erected of Carl's face, advertising Irini Rising and his healthy eating plan. And he's, saying that everyone's doing amazingly on it. When in fact, Carl is drinking lots of green juice and kale and is going round a lot of different bushes and houses. And can I say it? Well, I can because I know we're not non-explicit in this. Shitting in people's gardens, and it has been realised and picked up by the police because Andrew mentions it, and Mel realizes when Wendy shows her a map, and she says, "Hang on a minute, that's the map that's the route that Carl and I did today." So Carl is the Phantom Pooer of
Phantom Poor.
of Ramsey Street and is code browning all over the place. Anyway, so yeah, that has made me laugh hysterically this week. I'm just like the things
Yeah.
people do
It's
to
it's nice to have that back, isn't it? Like,
definitely
I
it's been
think the comedy's been missing for some time.
yeah,
And also it's nice to see Carl, so because he's just been every time he's kind of gone away, come back, he's been concerned with Mel and
yeah.
Tabby, and it's just like too serious. And don't get me wrong, he has his serious side, but it's just nice to see a bit of the funny man
Mm,
as well, which
yeah,
he does so well.
he does. We love Carl, we definitely do. So now we're going to discuss the best comedy duos on Neighbours, both past and present. So who are we going to begin with, Natasha?
I think we're going to discuss Toady first because I
Hmm.
think he's, one of the longest running cast members, and
Yeah.
he is known for his comedy. Ryan is very, very good with comedy,
Mhm.
and he seems to bounce quite well with quite a few people.
Yeah.
So I mean, like for example, it's been Toadie and Sonia.
Hmm.
Like they had their sad moments, they've had their serious moments, but they also had a lot of comedy, and I think that's why we took to them.
Yeah.
Um, but then he's also really good with Carl as
Yeah.
well, especially after Sonia passed.
Yeah.
that kind of became quite strong. Um, and then you also had Toadie and Kyle, actually. Sometimes they were quite well together because they kind of knocked around together, especially when he was dating, oh my God, who was he dating? He was dating his niece. What's her name again? Oh my God.
Who's nice?
Toadie's, not niece, cousin. Oh my
What?
God. Georgia. Georgia. I was like, hold on, because I was thinking Saskia, and I was like, no, that's the actress's
That's it.
name.
I was like, what are you on about?
That's
Really confused
the
me.
actress. Yeah. So that was quite strong around then as
Yeah.
well.
So
Yeah.
he's so like literally you said about Toadie and Sonia. One of the things that pops up in my mind is all those times that they tried to have sex and they always ended up getting caught or something. Like once in the frigging waterhole and they set the fire alarm off because they put the sage set fire. They
Mm-hmm.
uh, then got caught in the his law offices when he was working for that law firm, because Sonia's had that alarm on computer to say when she was like ovulating to try and get pregnant with Mel. Like every time it was something, and they'd always be like, they pop up and they're like, as if they're like, we're not doing anything. Nothing's happening here. And they're like half naked. You just see their top halves with like no clothes on, or Sonia like just covering herself up. Um,
Well, I guess that's kind of like Toadie and sex, basically, because there was a similar storyline with Toadie and Mel when they got together with the whole tiger dress.
yeah,
And she was a cougar.
yeah,
And he found her really attractive and really sexy in that dress. So that's actually something that we've not really seen. And actually, at the time, I remember thinking, I don't really get this. Why? What's going on here?
yeah,
But then now, looking back, I'm like, well, actually, I'd rather them be having fun like that than all this drama.
yeah,
Those two are funny people, and they
yeah,
should not be. It's been nice to see a different side to both of them,
mm,
especially Lucinda being able
yeah,
to do a more serious role and deliver that, which she's
yeah,
been great at. But at the same time, it's like, no, but we really miss your comedy.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think we're starting to get it back a little bit though. This last coming week,
definitely. I
with
think
her,
the fact that
her
Toadie
and
hasn't
Carl.
been there, it's kind of coming back.
You've had somebody else to have to try and make up for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Um, but also moving on from that, we did
yeah,
mention Kyle, not Kyle, Carl,
Carl.
Carl and Susan.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, very similar storyline as well with the whole blue box. I mean, they've
mm,
got their relationship is just so vast. They've done serious, they've done, the lovey-dovey, but also they've done comedy really well. And I think that's what I'm missing at the moment. We've got Carl back with doing some comedic storylines, but it would be nice to have Susan alongside as well.
just the looks that she gives him
Hmm.
sometimes. That
Hmm.
like when he's just being absolutely ridiculous, and
But
she
whenever he's talking about the right prescription,
yeah, and she's
or
just
that, oh, I'll write a song for that, and it's
just
like
looks at him, and she's just like, oh my God, please don't. Yes.
embarrassing.
Yeah, just the looks that she gives him and just the things that she says and the way she says his name, like Carl, and like, but she says
Hmm.
it such a honestly, yeah, those two make me laugh so much. Carl and Susan, we need them back.
We
Susan
need
needs
them
to come
back.
back. Uh,
Um, and
yeah,
we also mentioned Kyle, the
Kyle.
other spelling.
Yeah.
Um, Now he's someone. I think he probably like went under Toadie. Chris went under Ryan's wing almost because
Mhm.
they're very similar with their comedy.
Yeah,
Kyle, he's just so dopey,
but it's
isn't he?
also
Like
like
it's so
yes, dopey, but I would say in recent years, quite like the wit is very
yeah, yeah,
like smart-witted.
yeah,
Like almost like sarcastic, like says stuff on a whim,
yeah.
almost not like meaning to say it as it
Well, he's
is.
kind of like as if he's moaning and he's rolling his eyes, but actually it's a really clever line delivered and a very
Yeah,
funny line
it comes
delivered. Yeah.
across really funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely.
But yeah, he with his I mean, he you can couple Chris up with so many different people. I
Mm,
mean, the entire Canning family
mhm.
was a funny family, and I'm
I mean,
including Roxy in that as
yeah,
well.
but we also know how so frigging hilarious
Mhm.
Kellyanne is in real life
Mhm.
after
Mhm.
having met her and did, watching that interview that we did with her in London. Like, like as a person, she's just like you could see why she was given that part
Yeah.
because I don't think you had you given that role of Sheila to anybody else, I don't think they would have played it the same way that Colette does because
No.
like you and I were just literally just like crying with laughter
Yeah.
at her.
Yeah.
And like when she played Sheila, like just incredible. And like you were saying, that whole family dynamic, like
Mhm.
Sheila and Kyle, Sheila and Gary at times, Sheila and
Mhm.
Roxy, like Kyle and Roxy, like the whole Canning gang.
Naomi as well. Like,
Naomi,
you know,
yeah,
Sheila
just
and Naomi.
yeah, just absolutely like at times would absolutely just have me like howling with
Mm.
laughter.
Mm.
Um, I have to say one of my favorite pairings is probably, and you're going to say it too, is probably Sheila and Roxy.
Definitely. I think because when Roxy came onto the scene, like, Sheila hated her. Sheila
Mm,
was like, "Who is this waste of space?" You know, and definitely at the time, she wouldn't have thought she was good enough for Kyle, her grandson.
yeah.
Um, but then just seeing that relationship bloom, over the years, and actually the reason they didn't get on in the first place because 'cause they're actually quite similar.
Oh my God, I literally you said that and I was thinking of that time when they're um I can't remember who it was. I think it was Therese, B, and somebody else said about Kyle, you're just dating your grandma or something because
Exactly.
Sheila and Roxy were just doing stuff like so like the same. So that they did this thing where they pretended like I can't remember what it was. They pretended that they were gonna like do everything together and she was gonna try and act and like like Roxy or whatever and Kyle you could just get like was getting like really annoyed and he was like why are you doing this like stop it stop and then they because they knew that it was winding him up and they were like well B and Susan and Therese told us that you think you're dating your grandma, so we thought we might mess around with you.
Oh,
So
so
yeah,
good.
no, absolutely hilarious.
So good.
Yeah, you throw Gary into that mix a little bit as well, actually. Some of the bouncing
Mhm.
off of Kyle that they did when they used to work at the tram together, and the little things.
Because a lot of their comedy was kind of on the fact that they were a little bit on the bogan side,
Yeah.
and the fact that they tended to get themselves into mishaps, you know, disasters would happen around them. They'd always seem to get everything wrong.
Mm,
And rather than it become this really serious storyline, it would usually be, oh, let's make this lighthearted and fun. They'd get
mm,
themselves into such situations. And obviously the whole, you know, I want to say it, Gary the Pigeon, like even he makes, you know, like Sheila and Gary the Pigeon. And, you know, when we met Colette,
yeah,
she told us the stories about Gary. We've mentioned it on an episode before.
yeah,
It's just all funny. It's just
yeah.
all stupid. And yeah,
It's
we
like
need more of that.
the way that Sheila is like, she's like, um, Gary Francis Canning, or she's like Gary Eugene Francis Canning, and the way she says it, and you know their full names, and like Cannings are made of tough stuff, and they all have
Yeah,
to like say it together as
yeah,
well. But talking of Canning, she could probably throw Xanthi in the mix a little bit there as well, because
yeah,
she could have
yeah,
been funny at times
yeah,
with her ditzy ways or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah, so the full Canning gang wasn't really a
yeah.
duo, was it? That was just all
I
of them.
mean, I think we're actually missing a family like that, aren't we? We don't actually have a family at the moment.
Think they're trying to do it with the Rodwells a little bit with Wendy, but like it needs ramping
No,
up.
but
Sadie hasn't
Sadie's
got
doing a, you know, she's, you know, that character's doing a, you know, it's a great job what she's doing. She's got the, you know, and a police officer. I don't think they're the family. We need another family that's just going to be, you know, brings one person in. That's
mm,
funny, and I think that's probably what happened with Kyle. You know, like, you know, he was on Ramsey Street.
Yeah.
and thought, "This is a real comedic, route we could go down."
Yeah.
And, "Oh, how hold on, let's add in
Let's
a
bring
grandmother."
a grandma in, yeah.
Yeah. "Oh, let's add in a, aunt. Let's
Yeah,
add in," "let's talk about, the father for
yeah,
ages, and then he," I
yeah,
just it's genius, really, and
mm,
I think that's what they're missing at the moment.
yeah. Very good writing on their behalf back,
Definitely,
in
definitely.
we're talking what, 2018 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah. So
Um,
let's talk about our final and best
yeah. I
pairing
mean,
then.
obviously, with Harold coming back, I love them, and it's our favourite is Lou and Harold.
You just can't beat them, can you?
It's just the whole.
Like, they literally just love to hate each other,
Mhm. The
like,
sparring is the.
constantly.
Yeah.
They're just winding each other up the wrong way. I'd
Mhm.
say probably, um, Lou is probably winding Harold up a little bit
Mhm.
more.
Mhm.
Harold up a
Yep.
little bit more than, the other way around, because Lou is always trying to come up with some sort of, you know, crazy
Scheme. Yeah.
scheme or plan, and he's just like, "Oh, you old jelly belly, why can't you just do this and get this right, and you'll go and play your tuba," or whatever it is, you know? So,
I
yeah.
think there's Lou is definitely a character that we miss because, he would always have a smile on his face,
Mm,
always be up to something, always there to charm the ladies or try
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Um, try to underlined. Um, yeah, I just think, yeah, Harold's
Probably.
not going to have someone to do that with.
Oh, I mean, when he was back last time, there was a little bit of him trying to be funny with Carl, so maybe him and Carl are the new
Maybe.
Lou and
I
Harold.
mean, this is the beauty of it, because it's kind of like these duos, these comedy duos, it's about dynamics, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you put two people together, see what they can do together. And that's the beauty of it. And that's the beauty of comedy and how it develops. So who knows? I mean, it could be someone else, it could be Carl.
I mean, what else do you love about Lou and Harold?
Just, I don't know. I feel like with them, even though the comedy was there and they would, or at least Lou would take the piss out of Harold a lot of the time,
Yeah.
when it really mattered, they were there for each other.
Yeah.
It was all a front.
Yeah.
Um, they did care about each other.
Mm,
Um, like especially when like Madge died and stuff.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
No.
I miss it.
Yeah, I'm hoping Harold gets some more, kind of funny moments like that because it's quite serious with him before he kind of left with his, like, health and, turns out it was the tablets that he was on was making
Well,
him very.
I think with Harold, what I love about him is how prudish he is,
Mm,
right? So he gets offended quite quickly
mm,
and he gets embarrassed quite quickly. So I think, especially with the youngsters, and I think that would be an interesting dynamic to see that,
yeah.
to see how that plays out. Like potentially even like Holly, for
Mm.
example, because she can be a bit wild and out there. And especially if he comes around to visit Carl, like that could be a really interesting dynamic, trying to
Where
embarrass.
he's gonna live.
Yeah, where would he live?
He was staying with, the Kennedys before, wasn't he?
I mean, there's always space at the Kennedys. To be honest, it's
They've
like
got, like, a million rooms in their
it's
house.
limitless. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to move in.
Just walk through one of those doors and there's, like, 3 bedrooms in, you know? There were so
Um,
many people living there at once.
yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway, well, I think that was a little bit of a trip down memory lane, don't
it
you think?
was, yes, it was very, very lovely. Neighbours is so, strong when it comes to, like, comedy, and it definitely needs to, be celebrated.
Definitely, it does.
Have we got any other business for this week?
Yes, we do actually. So it's been a bit crazy since our last episode. So the Neighbours for 40th anniversary celebrations tour was announced.
Mhm.
And tickets, they're already on sale. They're on sale on the 8th, 8th, 9th of
Mm,
April? Can't remember. Beginning of April.
yeah.
And now we're mid-April, so there we go. So yeah, so the tour, if you haven't got tickets already, the tour will be hitting Birmingham, Newcastle, Glasgow, London, Cardiff, and Manchester. There's still some tickets left, so just check out mapletreeentertainment.com for more info.
Yes, indeed. Wow, that is all we have time for, folks. We, of course, love hearing from you, so please do send us a message and we might feature them on the show.
Yes, we just might. Thank you for joining us again. Your loyalty means a lot to us.
It does. Until next time, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.